All right, let's jump right in. Every single company, whether it's the little coffee shop on the corner or some massive global tech firm, has a sort of internal compass. It's what guides all of their decisions, the big ones and the small ones. And today, we're going to talk all about that compass, how businesses find their way through the really tricky worlds of ethics and responsibility.
So, to get us started, I want you to think about two pretty huge corporate controversies from totally different decades. First, you've got the fast food giants in the 70s, campaigning to keep worker wages down. Then, jump forward to the 2010s, with all the workplace harassment scandals that just blew up Silicon Valley. So, what's the link between these two?
Well, the common thread is this. Both the McDonald's wage issue and the crisis over at Uber were, at their core, massive ethical failures. We're talking about huge, influential companies, decades apart, but both problems came from a complete breakdown in their guiding principles. It just goes to show you how high the stakes really are when a company's moral compass breaks.
Okay, so how do companies stop these kinds of disasters from happening? Well, it really has to start from the inside, by building what you could call an ethical blueprint. Honestly, the best way to think about it is as the basic operating system for the entire organization.
You know, business ethics isn't just some vague, fluffy idea of doing the right thing. No, it's a real, concrete framework. It is the architectural plan that lays out exactly how a company is going to operate, especially when things get difficult. A company that's only built on profit, that's shaky ground. But one built on strong values, that's a company that's built to last.
And this is where that blueprint really gets put to the test. Just imagine a company is going through a tough time and they have to lay people off. What's the unethical choice? Well, the CEO accepts a big annual raise. But the ethical choice? The CEO takes a pay cut, showing real leadership and proving that everyone's in it together.
Now, to avoid making those bad calls in the heat of the moment, smart companies use a structured process. This 6-step framework really helps take the emotion out of a tough decision. It forces leaders to separate what they know from what they think, to consider every single person who might be affected, and to check any solution against all the legal and ethical boxes before they actually do anything. It's a really deliberate, methodical approach to getting it right.
So how does that big, abstract blueprint actually become real for every employee? It happens through a code of conduct. And this isn't just some document that gets filed away and forgotten. A good one defines everything from the legal must-dos like harassment policies to the company's big-picture values like being environmentally friendly. It basically translates the company's mission into daily, real-world actions.
All right, so having a solid internal compass, that's one thing. But what about a company's impact on the rest of the world? This next part is all about making that shift, from just trying to avoid doing bad things to proactively trying to do good things.
And this brings us to a big idea: corporate social responsibility, or CSR for short. The core concept here is that a business doesn't operate in a vacuum, right? It has money, it has influence, and with that power comes an incredible opportunity. You might even call it a privilege to actually make the world a better place.
And CSR can take all kinds of forms. I mean, it can be something as straightforward as organizing employee volunteer days or donating to local charities. Or it can be woven right into the DNA of the business model itself. A classic example, of course, is Tom's Shoes. They built their entire company around that one-for-one idea. You buy a pair of shoes, they give a pair to a child who needs them.
But here's a really crucial distinction to make. There is a huge difference between a temporary marketing gimmick, which is really just social marketing, and true corporate social responsibility. Real CSR is a sustainable, long-term commitment. And you have to remember, people are smart. They can spot the difference between a PR stunt and genuine dedication a mile away.
Okay, this all sounds really great in theory, but here's the big question. Does it actually work? Is being a good corporate citizen actually good for business? Well, let's take a look at the real, tangible benefits and see how having an ethical foundation can directly boost the bottom line.
And the story starts right here. In 2015, one CEO made a decision that was so radical, so controversial at the time, that it put his company's ethics right at the center of a national conversation.
That decision was to set a brand new minimum salary of, get this, $70,000 a year for every single person at his company, Gravity Payments. And to make it happen, the CEO, Dan Price, he slashed his own million-dollar salary. It was a massive, massive bet on the principle of paying people a fair wage.
So what happened? Did the bet pay off? Oh, it paid off big time. The company's revenues and profits didn't just grow, they skyrocketed. And at the same time, they hit an absolutely incredible 91% employee retention rate. People were lining up to work there, and once they were in, they didn't want to leave. It was proof that investing in your people is maybe the smartest business move you can possibly make.
And look, the Gravity Payments story isn't just some random fluke. The benefits of having strong ethical and social responsibility policies are really clear. For one, investors see it as a sign of a stable, well-run company. Research also shows that focusing on things like sustainability actually improves how the business operates. And as we just saw, it's an absolute magnet for attracting and keeping the best talent.
Now, on the flip side, the cost of getting this stuff wrong is just enormous. Bad ethics starts this vicious downward spiral. It kicks off with a poor reputation, which then leads to terrible employee morale. Pretty soon, you can't hire or keep good people, and before you know it, the company loses all credibility with its customers and with the public. It's a fast track to failure.
So, if the old way of only looking at profits is outdated, how should a modern company really measure its success? Well, that brings us to our final section, and a framework that neatly ties all of these ideas together. It's called the triple bottom line, and what it is a new scorecard for success. It's a framework that measures how sustainable a company truly is by looking way beyond just profits. It evaluates performance across 3 deeply connected areas. And those 3 pillars are profits, people, and planet. Profits, of course, are still essential. That's your traditional financial bottom line. But that's balanced with people, which measures the company's social impact on its workers, its customers, and its community. And finally, you have planet, which holds the company accountable for its environmental impact. A truly successful company, a sustainable company, is one that's winning in all 3 of these areas.
So all of this leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. In the world we live in today, a world of radical transparency where every move a company makes can be seen by everyone, the old way of doing business just isn't going to cut it anymore. Ethics and responsibility, they're not just nice-to-haves. They are absolutely fundamental to a company's survival and success. So the question isn't really if a company should balance its profit with a purpose, but how can it possibly afford not to?